Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to The Gaily Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in the United States. I'm your host, John Parker, in studio with my executive producer, Jim Pounds.
Hey, all.
I think we may have a candidate for U.S. Senate. We can having a little bit of technical difficulties.
We can see Dakari, but...
Dakari, yeah. Can you hear us? Can hear us, but can't hear you yet.
Well, we'll get this figured out.
All right, are we there?
Dakari, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
There we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Technology. Okay, so Dakari Larriett is a former corporate executive and entrepreneur who has announced his candidacy for the open U.S. Senate seat in Alabama. If elected, he would be the first gay senator for that state. He is the author of the forthcoming book, Don't Flush, which is about his unlawful arrest in Michigan, which sparked his candidacy. Mr. Larriett, thank you for joining us today. We're very grateful to have you here.
Thank you for having me, John and Jim. And you know what's really exciting, and I didn't even know this at the start of the process, I would actually be the first elected gay man to the Senate.
To the entire Senate?
Wow.
The U.S. Senate.
That's amazing.
We have a lot of work to do.
Wow. Okay, well, I have a lot of questions for you, sir. Can we start with the origin of your campaign and, unfortunately, your book? I would wish that you had the opportunity to write a book about a different topic, but can you talk to us about that arrest in Berrien County, Michigan?
Yes. Well, it's a very salient question. I was just speaking to my attorney. I was falsely arrested while driving black and gay, and I've still not received justice from that day. I was racially profiled. I was thrown homophobic insults. Ultimately, I tested negative, but I was still jailed that night under suspicion of driving under the influence of drugs. I was tortured, forced to use the restroom publicly. And when I got out of jail, many months later, saw the body in dash cam, we realized that the troopers were attempting to plant drugs in my car.
Wow. And you have filed a lawsuit against the Michigan State Police.
Yes, and that's what I was referring to. We filed, and it was thrown out due to qualified immunity. So that's one of the key issues that I'm running on. We've got to eliminate qualified immunity because it takes the accountability away from our police. Mm-hmm. And it was thrown out despite the mountain of evidence, simply because they have this protection, this force field that allows them to do essentially anything they want. Mm-hmm. So now we're sitting in the appeals court and hoping and praying that we get judges that will follow the law, i.e., democratically appointed judges.
Now, for folks who are like, okay, qualified immunity, let's unpack that for them. So this is it's a law upheld by the Supreme Court that basically says that if a police officer, and I'm stating it broadly here, you can give us the more specifics of it. Do I understand correctly that it's like if an officer in the course of his duties breaks the law or does something that may break the law, it's okay because they were on duty and they shouldn't be held responsible for that? Do I have
That's essentially it. And the scary thing that we're learning is that states like Alabama are expanding the laws to the point where we have no protections. And not just police officers, even corrections officers. So you may have heard about this new documentary coming out on HBO on Friday. It's called The Alabama Solution, and it talks about the constitutional civil rights violations happening in our prison system. This is only going to get worse because there's no accountability now. We literally just voted as a state to expand qualified immunity for police and corrections officers.
What is the rationale for that legislation?
Well, the state of Alabama has spent $57 million defending corrections officers in the last 5 years. So I think it's dollars and cents.
Oh, so instead of reforming their police force, they're just saying give them more protection from lawsuits.
Yeah.
Exactly. Think about all these lawsuits like my own to hold the system accountable. And before people say, oh, it's a money grab, you initially have to file an internal complaint. And if the prosecutors, the criminal prosecutors are doing their job, they would make a finding well before you get to a civil case. That's the court of last recourse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went through that process. I did the internal investigation. I did the civil rights complaint. It literally went nowhere. It's the criminals investigating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So our last point of defense is to sue civilly, and they want to take that away now.
If you are just tuning in, we are speaking with former corporate executive and entrepreneur who is running for the open Senate seat in Alabama, Dakari Larriett, who, if elected, as I just found out, would be the first gay man in the U.S. Senate in history who is out. He is the author of the forthcoming book, Don't Flush, which is about his unlawful arrest in Michigan, which sparked his candidacy. He is calling in by phone, which is leading to a little bit of that audio quality that you all are hearing about right now. Dakari, I'd love to talk to you about the book, and I'm curious about the title of it. Why is it titled Don't Flush?
Well, it's pretty vile, but essentially when I was tortured in the jail, I was made to use the restroom publicly. And it is one of the many insults that the trooper George Kenya hurled at me. So we'll never know, because they're liars, what they intended to do. Were they going to plant something in my feces? No idea. But it was absolutely human rights and civil rights violation. And that's why I've authored legislation that I call the Motorist Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
It's on my website, DakariLarriett.com. And it basically says, what are the key rules of engagement when the police approach us? What's a real reason to stop us? When you stop us for a sobriety test, what is a scientific reason to prove, or a scientific way of proving sobriety or not? And then finally, we've got to release the information to the principal immediately without redactions.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, it took 5.5 months to get the body and dash cam. It was severely redacted. In fact, I believe they are now weaponizing the body and dash cam against us. So think about that. We're taxed. We pay their salaries. We pay for all this equipment, right, that's supposed to keep us safe and drive accountability. Now they take 5.5 months and they edit the video in such a way to protect themselves. So we are in a broken criminal justice system, and I would say that's a coast-to-coast issue now.
Mm-hmm.
This is resonating, obviously, for those of us who are here based in the Twin Cities, and that's where our program is based after the murder of George Floyd, when we all got a crash course in qualified immunity and then saw those lawsuits play out, and now watching the Trump administration try to float how do they undo those rulings in the findings of I'm blanking on his name right now, Derek Chauvin's conviction of murdering George Floyd. Mr. Larriett, can you talk us through what you cover in the book? Like, what are all the areas? Do you cover just that night? Do you cover then the start of your campaign? Like, what can folks expect when they are going through your book?
Yeah, so Don't Flush really started as therapy. And my therapist said, you've got to talk about what's happening to you and write about it, get it out. And I went through a period of time, John, where my body was in I learned later, PTSD. I didn't have the vernacular for it. Mm. So every night at 2 a.m., I would wake up and I could not go back to sleep. Imagine that for months. Mm. Imagine the impact on your health, right?
Yeah.
So that's the genesis. It really is this very detailed, I would say 70% of the book is that night, and my recollection, plus the body and dash cam, plus the recollection of my friend, who you don't really see in the video that went viral, but he's sitting in the passenger seat. So between all of that, we retell the story in just very expansive detail. Then it becomes, what's next? How do we respond to this? And that's where I start ideating the legislation, and I walk through everything I tried to do to get justice, from advocating all the way up to Governor Whitmer, down to the local police forces. Imagine I literally tried to file a police report against the police, and I was basically laughed at and told that they don't want to get in a fight with the state. So after all of that, I come to the final conclusion: I have got to be the change I want to see, and I've got to change the rules of engagement. I've got to change the law. And the way I do that is by getting into a federal legislative seat. Mm-hmm. And I go through that process. Where can I serve the best good? And in Alabama, it makes the most sense to serve as senator, especially now with Senator Tuberville vacating that seat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a Herculean task, it feels like, for those of us who are outside of the state of Alabama. So I'm going to be mindful here. I'm not a expert on Alabama politics. You, sir, are the expert on that. And I was reading in I believe it was the Alabama Political Reporter, that you have brought in folks who used to work for Senator Jones, Doug Jones, who won a special election.
Yes. Yes. So Senator Jones is a friend, and his run was so inspiring. Now, people are always going to say that was a fluke. He won against Roy Moore. I don't think so. The votes exist. Now, his election was a special election. We've got to surge many more people and demographics to get out the vote, and I'm doing that. There's never been a campaign like mine, so nationally well received. Imagine we don't get attention like this. Mm-mm. Imagine I'm being interviewed by you today, a year out before the election, as a Democrat. That doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. I've made the cover of Out Magazine, The Advocate, Bay Area Reporter. So we're going to build this brand new coalition of young, black, queer people, mm-hmm. and expand everything that Senator Jones was able to do. And we're going to win this election. And the key front runner on the Republican side, based upon fundraising, is a man named Steve Marshall. And mm-hmm. he's just abhorrent. Mm-hmm. He recently did this interview attacking trans people. He has no solutions. And right. to make it even worse, the name of the interview was Kitchen Table Discussion. What is Kitchen Table about attacking people right. who just want to live their life, and who, by the way, represent less than 1% of the population?
Right.
So the funny thing, Steve Marshall is also quoted even in the commercial, the trailer for this new documentary, The Alabama Solution. So he doesn't think that we have a problem from a criminal justice perspective in our state. Never mind, 277 people were killed in our prisons last year. These are supposed to be corrections facilities, not death camps. Right. We spent $57 million defending corrections officers in the last 5 years. We're a poor state. So he is soft on crime and, frankly, just miss out of line with our values.
There is a look back at the election, and a lot of folks say, not a lot, but there are enough folks that kind of worry me within the Democratic Party, think tanks, pollsters, a certain governor, who are saying we have to run away from the LGBTQ community, particular trans issues, that just don't talk about it anymore, talk about the kitchen table issues. My concern about that, and you just illustrated it perfectly, they are going to make it an issue, even on an interview called Kitchen Table Issues. As a candidate, and I'm asking a huge question here, and I'm getting flagged that we've got to go to a commercial break. So can you continue and join us for another segment?
Love to.
All right, great. We are going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to have more with Mr. Dakari Larriett, who is running for the open Senate seat in Alabama in the 2026 election. You are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts still matter. You can keep the conversation going on Blue Sky. We're at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky, and be sure to sign up for AM 950's e-newsletter. You get more from us, and you get more from all of AM 950's shows. Go to am950radio.com to sign up. More after the break. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up on the top of the hour. I am John Parker in studio with my executive producer, Jim Pounds. Dakari Larriett is a former corporate executive and entrepreneur who is running for the United States Senate. If elected, he would be the first gay senator for Alabama and in the entire history of the United States. He is the author of the forthcoming book, Don't Flush, which is about his unlawful arrest in Michigan, which sparked his candidacy. Mr. Larriett, I was asking a huge question before the break. I'll restate it here. There is a post-mortem of the 2024 election by a number of think tanks and pollsters, and again, a U.S. governor, who say that it was the LGBTQ issues, specifically trans issues, that led to the loss of the Democrats and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in 2024. And now they're saying, don't run on that, run on kitchen table issues, whereas MAGA is continuing to campaign on anti-trans legislation and rhetoric, and to the point you were making, the story you were sharing about your opponent going on an interview called Kitchen Table Issues and talking nothing about kitchen table issues but trashing trans people. How then are you looking at running a campaign where you do want to talk about the economic realities, but also let's not throw the trans people off the bus?
That's a great question. So this campaign from the beginning was about listening. So we polled Alabamians. I've traveled the state. And the issues that we care about are kitchen table. It is education, healthcare, and the economy. So I bring everything back to that, and I lead with that. So, for example, the latest attacks on trans people, that doesn't make food more affordable for Alabamians. It doesn't provide more jobs. And by the way, it is 1% of the population. So I'm always going to defend our community and then bring it back to what Alabamians need. And then the theme of this week is that new documentary, The Alabama Solution. So my opponent is saying everything's fine, everything's great in the criminal justice system. Okay, but where did you find $57 million to defend bad corrections officers? That's not kitchen table. That's not good for Alabama. So I don't allow the room for them to turn this into a DEI discussion. I bring it right back to the basics for Alabamians.
There's been a lot in the first 10 months from MAGA and the Trump administration. As you're talking to voters and hearing from them, is there a particular issue or couple that the voters are really upset about when it comes to the Trump administration?
It's about forming those constituent groups. So there's so many groups that have so many reasons to be upset. So surprise, Alabama is a big soybean state. So imagine these folks are selling their product under cost now, or they have no customers at all, which is even worse. So that's a constituent group we speak to. North Alabama, the military-industrial complex, NASA, Space Force, the instability that's been brought to their lives with the shutdown and with just the constant back and forth, right? The military, or rather the medical researchers based out of Birmingham, Alabama. So UAB in particular comes to mind. They've lost a lot of funding as a result of DOGE cuts and things of that nature earlier in the year. So we're finding a way to speak to all these different groups that are non-traditional, like you don't normally think that's how I'm going to build my coalition, but that is how we're doing it. Teachers, obviously. Remember the Department of Education? We used to have one. So we really have a very specific finite message for each of these groups.
So Minnesota is also a huge soybean state. Who are, I mean, it's a huge crop here, and absolutely a lot of suffering going on here. And because China, which was the largest buyer, right, for listeners, we did a whole segment on soybeans, which would be like, why would the Gay Show be doing about soybeans? Apparently, it's a big deal here in Minnesota because, and I want to frame that as there are people within the party who are like, you know what, farmers, You voted overwhelmingly for the Trump administration. He did this in 1.0. He's doing it again in 2.0. Like, you're getting what you voted for. And on the other side, it's like, well, we can't give up our farmers and we can't give up all of our farms to corporate owners right now. How are you threading that needle of saying, this is a huge issue to you. Maybe you should start voting for yourself and for Democrats?
Mm-hmm. Well, I also have the benefit of being a first-time candidate. So I don't have that baggage of representing the party. In fact, this is a dark horse campaign. It's grassroots. So I really talk about my experience, 20 years in business, Fortune 500 leadership roles, starting my own corporation, and running that successfully for 15 years, and then 20 years in public service. So serving on boards for our LGBT youth, for education, and fighting the opioid crisis and harm reduction. So that's what I speak to, is my background in getting things done without partisanship and creating real solutions for people. And that's resonating.
Are there, I think the candidacy that's sort of stunned the country right now is the candidacy of Zohran Mamdani, who came out of nowhere. And I'm curious, are there tactics that you see him doing, not necessarily policy positions, but he's resonating with Gen Z and Alpha in a way that no Democrat has done for a long time? Are there tactics that you see there that could be amenable to your campaign?
Yes. Even before Mamdani, and I was really inspired by Harris's rapid response social media. So we're looking to build out something similar to that, and we're in the early stages of it, but it's speaking to people where they are and not being afraid of TikTok and all these different platforms where the young people engage. In fact, we even did a video with a rapper out of Birmingham, Alabama a couple months ago. That video went viral. He taught me some dance moves, and we had a discussion about gender representation. So we're doing all these really exciting things and speaking to people in different ways, going to nightclubs. So it's been really exciting.
That's great.
We were talking with Dakari Larriett. Know that name. He is running for U.S. Senate in Alabama. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Larriett. His book is Don't Flush, which is about his unlawful arrest in Michigan, which sparked his candidacy. It is going to be in bookstores soon. We have links to that in our show notes. I hope that we get to talk to you again, sir.
Thank you so much, John and Jim. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening today, everyone. Up next on WCPT is Choose Views with Richard Chu. On AM 950, it's the Matt McNeil Show. And until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.